So, you've just had this incredible, world-changing breakthrough. Now what? After achieving enlightenment, the Buddha faced that exact problem. It had nothing to do with cosmic truths and everything to do with people. So today, let's unpack the story of his very first mission. It's basically a masterclass on how to launch an idea that can change everything.
And just so you know where this is all coming from, the story we're about to get into is based on the Sutra on the Origin of the Middle Way. It's an ancient scripture. So this isn't just some legend that popped up centuries later. We're talking about a blueprint recorded thousands of years ago. Seriously, just think about it for a second. You've figured out something huge, something that could completely reshape how people see reality. What's your first move? Who's the first person you tell? That was the exact dilemma the Buddha was facing. Right, so in those first few days after his enlightenment, the Buddha wasn't just, chilling out with his newfound cosmic understanding. No, he had a huge, very human problem on his hands. Who on earth do I teach this to first? That first choice, it could make or break everything.
You'd think it would be easy, right? Well, his mission hits a snag immediately. His first thought was to go find his old teachers, Alara Kalama and Uddaka Ramaputta. But then a voice tells him it's too late. His first choice died a week ago. His second choice died just last night. With his top two picks gone, he has to pivot fast. He decides to find the 5 guys he used to practice extreme asceticism with. Now, this was going to be a tough sell. I mean, these 5 guys had literally walked out on him. They thought he was a quitter because he'd accepted a bit of food. And now he has to go back to these exact same skeptics and convince them that he, of all people, had found the ultimate truth. Talk about a difficult audience. So this all sets the stage for a major showdown at a place that's now famous, the Deer Park. This is where the Buddha's going to give his first ever sermon and try to turn 5 really hardened critics into his first followers. And you can just feel the resistance. The scripture says they saw him coming and immediately made a pact. They literally agreed, look, this guy gave up. When he gets here, we'll give him a seat, sure, but we're not going to stand up for him or greet him properly. They had completely written him off. But then, as he got closer, their whole plan just fell apart. There was something about his presence, this incredible serenity and power that made them all stand up and greet him. It was like they couldn't help themselves. The man they thought they knew was clearly not the man who was now standing right in front of them. So the Buddha starts his teaching by talking about the 2 paths they all knew inside and out. On one hand, you've got extreme indulgence, the life of pleasure he'd known as a prince, and on the other, you've got the path they'd all practiced together, this life of extreme hardship, starving yourself, and just constant pain. He basically tells them, look, both of these are dead ends. And that's when he drops the big idea. Not some watered-down compromise, but something totally different. The middle way. A path of balance and clarity. One that avoids the trap of pleasure-seeking and the agony of self-punishment. And the foundation of this middle way is just brilliant in its simplicity. The 4 noble truths. He lays it out almost like a doctor. 1, life involves suffering. 2, there's a reason for that suffering. 3, but hey, you can stop it. And 4, here's the exact step-by-step path to do it. The argument was so clear, so logical, so profound, that it actually worked. The 5 skeptics got it. They were converted right then and there, becoming the first ever members of the Buddhist Sangha. Mission number 1, a total success. Okay, but getting 5 guys on board is one thing. That's just the first ripple. To really make waves, the Buddha knew he needed to win over the influencers of his day, the big-name leaders whose opinions actually mattered to thousands of people. So his next target was a very strategic one, a guy named Uruvillakashapa. And this wasn't just some random hermit. He was a hugely respected leader of a fire-worshipping sect, and he had 500 followers hanging on his every word. Converting him would be a massive win. So the Buddha goes to him and asks to stay the night in their sacred fire room. Kashyapa tries to warn him off, saying, "You can't stay in there. There's a fierce dragon inside that will hurt you." It was basically a warning, but it was also a test, a big one. And what happens next is just, wow. The Buddha doesn't just survive the night, he completely tames the fire dragon and puts it in his begging bowl, like it's no big deal. But he doesn't stop there. He makes rare fruit appear out of nowhere, he controls their sacred fires with his mind, and he even makes their wood-chopping axes float in mid-air. It was just one miracle after another, a rapid-fire display of power designed to show Kashyapa who was really in charge. After seeing his own spiritual turf, fire, and ritual so completely and effortlessly mastered, what could Kashyapa even say? He and his two brothers, who were also leaders, finally had to admit it. The Buddha's path was the real deal.
And the result of this? It's staggering. When the three brothers converted, all of their followers came with them. All 1,000 of them. In one move, the Buddhist community just exploded, going from a tiny group to over 1,000 strong. His influence just skyrocketed.
But even 1,000 followers isn't enough to build something that's going to last. For that, you need protection, you need resources, you need mainstream acceptance, you need to win over political power. And so, that brings us to the final piece of the strategy, King Bimbisara. Getting his support wasn't just about another conversion. This was about getting legitimacy, resources, and security for the entire community. This was the end game. So imagine this scene. The Buddha walks into the king's court with Kashyapa, who everyone knows and reveres. And the whole court is just buzzing, whispering amongst themselves. Wait, who's the master here? Is the Buddha with Kashyapa, or is Kashyapa with the Buddha? Nobody knew who was leading whom. And this is where the Buddha pulls off an absolutely genius move. Instead of showing off his own power, he asks Kashyapa, the guy everyone there already respects, to show his power, and then to publicly declare that the Buddha is his master. He used Kashyapa's own reputation to validate his own. It was brilliant. And the effect was immediate. It was huge. Seeing their most respected spiritual leader bow down to the Buddha was all the proof the king and his court needed. The texts say 12,000 people were converted after that one event. The Buddha's community now had a stable, protected home. So it all leaves us with this question, doesn't it? To change a mind or a whole society, what does it really take? This story seems to suggest it's not just one thing. It's a perfect argument, yeah, but it's also a show of authority, and maybe most importantly, a brilliant, brilliant understanding of people.